Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you are all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and yesterday was certainly an entertaining one on the timeline. We had amateur players going rogue all over the place, kicked off really by Clayster in a barrage of tweets that he had against the gentleman's agreements that the amateur players are doing right now. He of course has been one of the major pros that's been against GAs for, well, a number of years now, pretty much since the dawn of time. He was pretty frustrated, he was going at people left, right and centre. The amateurs then decided, right, let's hop on the bandwagon. Spark says, screw this QBZ GA, and then chaos kind of ensues for a little bit before they come to their senses a little bit later in the day. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Right, like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, I thought this was interesting from Clay as well. Is P2 heading on Garrison Railing the best head glitch in any Call of Duty ever? It's actually now gone in the latest patch, and this is kind of what he's talking about. You guys might have noticed if you get on the railing behind here, this is a pretty godlike head glitch to deal with. You can kind of shoot under this, well, shoot under this bar type of thing right here, but not anymore since this latest patch. However, this will still be in the game for a couple more weeks as the pros are playing on it for the rest of stage 2. We'll talk about the crazy games that are going on later today right at the end of the video. Let's talk about how things started then. So yesterday we discussed the fact that the North American amateurs had followed the lead of the European and the APAC amateurs by banning the QBZ out of play. The pros don't seem to think the QBZ is that good, especially because on 60Hz servers the Krig apparently is god tier. But the QBZ has been that kind of do-it-all weapon once again that comes in. It was the AK-47, then it was the XM4, now it's the QBZ, and they decide they want to get rid of it. You know how it goes. In the European side, they've got rid of the muzzle brake and the commentator as well for the AK-74U as we looked at yesterday. So there's a fair bit of discussion right now. The fact that, okay, the 74U has all its attachments back and is perfectly fine. However, it's all the ARs that tend to be GA'd. So this is what Clayster had to say on the matter yesterday. Does anyone else find it comedy that there has been 4 ARs GA'd by the challenger scene, yet only 1 damage barrel has been taken off the sub? The favoritism to the league that 75% sub players is getting out of hand. That's actually an interesting point, right? The fact that most players are not main assault rifles, therefore they might actually favour, you know, the 74U and SMG weapons in general in the meta when they talk about GAs. AR players have had to learn 5 different weapons: FFAR, AK, Krig, XM4, QBZ, back to Krig again, recoil pattern, strafe positioning, etc. Whereas sub players have been able to use a 74U since beta, and my grandmother could shoot that gun straight. So pathetic. Just sick of all these trash cans blaming guns for this, and that's when in reality 80% of the challengers and the pro scene blow at the game and cannot compete without some sort of meta shakeup. Learn to play, noobs. Stop blaming the game. I can't stand this anymore. It's not even for the betterment of the game like it used to be. All the people who actually strived for that left the GA attach and don't bother with it anymore. It's all so what can make my team better, what can make us compete better, which is so bad it just makes absolutely 0 sense. And well, he then continues with this as well. I mean, obviously these are screenshots, since been deleted, you know the drill. What even is balance in a game with 150 millisecond time to kill? Every gun in COD is easy to shoot now, including the 74U. They've slowly catered the game to casuals, and pros keep trying to make it competitive without understanding that it's super easy to play now. So interesting, well, as I say, barrage of tweets. Tom Gravity comes back in the reply. Personally, I think this, you know, they were bailouts for lesser talented players. I don't care about the semantics of the guns, it's the principle. People are trash. Use 4 of the guns if it's so good. Who really cares? And you know, Methodz and Gravity having a little bit of an exchange as well. And this happened as well that was pretty funny. Clay needs to eat a Snickers. He comes in, the reply was, you got the XM4 G8 and then got benched the next day. I don't want to hear it from you. Since been deleted, this one, you know, guys on I'll never forgive, I'll never forget, says Crimsix. It's all pretty incredible stuff going down on the timeline yesterday. And Methodz says this as well. Gun was broken. If you're arguing that people need to learn how to play, you should be all for eliminating every single OP weapon. Better players who have better game sense will always be better with, you know, with these weapons gone. So definitely a bit of a back and forth. You know how it goes down on the timeline. And then, well, this kind of happened. I think Pro Luke came at FeLo and, you know, he was calling it, you know, a bit of a trash can. You know the drill. And well, then even David Carmabalo, the 3-time world champion, says this: League is full of Madonnas that have a full mental collapse back in the old days. Who makes any of these guns? What makes any of these guns any different nowadays from like a K-bar and STG and M8, a bar, for example, back in the day, which is totally very true, right? These guns were just, okay, it's the best gun, let's use it. Nowadays, if it's the best gun, unlucky lads, it's gotta go. And well, even once one gun goes, like the AK-47 and the XM4 has to go. I mean, the FFAR went early on. Now it's the QBZ that's out the door in the challenger side. Honestly, pretty chaotic. So this is then what happened as a result. Spark comes out and says, running QBZ today inspired by Clay's tweets, God bless. So effectively, the challenger scene decided to get rid of it right before their Elite Cup, effectively, like, you know, the finals of their Elite Series, and the amateurs decided that the QBZ, it's time to go. But Spark wasn't very happy about that, right, given their practice with it for a couple of weeks, and now the very day of the tournament, it's going to be out the window. So Spark says, look, screw it, Clay's tweets have inspired me, it's not going to be happening. We'll be using the QBZ today in scrims. If you don't like it, put out an XM4, I will gladly match you. Pull out an AK, I will match that as well. Good luck. So Sparta just completely 1v, 172ing the amateur challenger scene. And well, this happened from Nick Nelson. He puts the thumbs down. But as he said, like, don't care. GA, a gun we've been using for the last few weeks, the day of the tourney, they can hold my nuts. Not going to happen. I am just going to reuse it regardless. And well, as he then continues with, every gun is going to be used today because I want to use a QBZ. Yes, there was an update that changed the game, but how am I supposed to ban a gun the day of the biggest prize pool tourney the AM scene has seen when we've been playing with it for these last few weeks? So that is what happened. Azuma says, like, it's all falling apart. Absolute bloodbath, folks, and it is unfolding right in front of us. And then this is what went down then. So I was watching some scrims before the Elite actually kicked off. This was, this was Top Gravity right here and his team practicing. And honestly, everything was getting pulled out. It was absolute chaos to watch. You never knew what was happening on a particular map. The AK was coming out in force. I mean, look how good the AK is. It's actually ridiculous. I felt bad for the SMG players, to be honest, just getting bodied by all the ARs, which, have been GA'd for some decent reason, you can argue. And then there's this as well. He pulls out the thermal XM4. I didn't really see the smokes come into play. I think that would have been kind of funny if they just pulled out like 8 smokes on the map as well. That would have been absolute chaos. But a lot of the amateurs, they were basically saying, okay, well, Spart said screw it, so we're just going to screw the GAs and use whatever we want. The thermal XM4s were coming out, so they had the 8 attachments on the weapons. They were even using the laser sights, right? And I'm not sure if really snipers came out, but there was some discussion like, what's going on? I mean, this is just ridiculous. And, there's a line here, right? Because at the same time, this was chaotic to watch and very entertaining. But, do I actually want to be seeing this in the Pro League, the thermal XM4s come out? Like, I don't know. I think the GAs have a place to some degree. Maybe we don't necessarily need a thermal XM4, but even though people used to use it back in the day, didn't they? Like thermal NV4 and such, people used to pull out because, it used to be good on certain maps. So it's an interesting addition to the meta, you could argue, if it was allowed. But this is what the amateurs have been using for quite some time for a couple of hours of scrims, and then they kind of realized, okay, hang on a second, this is maybe slightly ridiculous that, all that's being used now are assault rifles. We're seeing like so many, AK-47s on the map. But to be fair, it's interesting, right? Because the AK-47 is clearly very good, but so is the XM4. So what actually do you use? There's an interesting meta argument there, because people thought the AK-47 was the best, and then all of a sudden when they realized that actually the XM4 was very good, there's a balance issue between the both. But I do feel kind of bad for the SMGs, and Gravity dropped 58 limbs with it in the very first game he played with this thermal XM4 over on Checkmate Hardpoint. So clearly very strong. And then some of the SMG players were like, all right, screw this, we're not using the 74U anymore, we're going to pull out the LC10. So it was honestly chaos for a time, and this is pretty funny for the subline as well, running QBZ today. Everyone was kind of getting in on the matter, AK-47s coming out in force, and well, it ended up not exactly finishing off like this. As Spart says, got some news, the chat has come to their senses and have un-GA'd the QBZ and are keeping the AK and the XM4 GA'd, God bless. So they've decided, okay, like the QBZ, we don't want to be using all of this random stuff, which has clearly been used throughout those couple of hours of scrims. Let's just allow the QBZ this time. Like, Spart, okay, you can use it, you do what you want. As Crone says, you managed to clutch up a 1 versus 18. But the AK and the XM4 stayed GA, so it maybe wasn't quite as entertaining to watch as some of us were maybe hoping for that it would be. But at the end of the day, it probably makes more sense. And they've decided that, look, the QBZ is only allowed for the current Elite. Let me clear that up. After this, it's going to be back to the Krieg 74U meta, which, we'll have to see if that returns in the pro side as well, given that maybe it's only a matter of time until the pros also decide to get rid of the QBZ. Clearly, Clayster is not in favour of that happening, and there's some players the likes of ILLey which also are not in favour, as we looked at yesterday. So, honestly, some crazy stuff. It finished off in pretty remarkable fashion, actually. I mean, this was not the grand finals, but eStar, that being FeLo's team, were down, I think they were down 2-0, and 2-0 in the control or something. They bring the ultimate reverse sweep. I think FeLo had, something I saw on Reddit, I'm not sure if this is actually facts or not, but apparently he had 11 first bloods in 11 rounds of Search and Destroy, which is, honestly, remarkable stuff. He was absolutely going off on the main stage, and they end up taking this one down, but they don't win the tournament. It's actually Sib's team, that being Decimate Sib, Dav Paddy, and Drazah, that end up winning the tournament. And this is pretty interesting, right, because Standy used to be on this team. Now Drazah's in this team, and they're also having great success, which does ask the question, right, why is Drazah not getting his chance yet on the Los Angeles Thieves squad? Because I think he's even been using the SMG a little bit, Drazah, on this team, which is kind of was the concern, right? The idea that, okay, on LA Thieves, maybe he'd have to take the flex role, and then Kenny would have to be on the sub, which maybe isn't ideal. So, there's some question marks there. We'll have to see how the Thieves do this week up against Los Angeles Grillers. And on the European side, it's B-Sport, Josh, and the boys who get the job done once again. Also wanted to shout out the Latin America Grand Finals that went on. I didn't get a chance to watch this, but supposedly some pretty entertaining matches. Great to see some Call of Duty being played in multiple regions, and I'm sure there's some great talent in these regions, which at some point will get their opportunity in the Pro League if it does expand into, multiple cities as time does progress. Let's talk about the games tonight then. So 2 massive games. I mean, honestly, both of them are Group B games, but this group is such a bloodbath already that these games have such great implications. So look at Group B. Dallas are technically number 1, above the Surge, above the Mutineers. Would you have expected this coming into the stage? I would certainly not have done, but it's Dallas, Surge, Mutineers, Rokkr, OpTic, Paris, Legion is the current, well, tiering of 6 in Group B. Group A is also kind of chaotic right now. I think Subliners and FaZe are pretty much guaranteed top 1 and 2. I think there's still possible that Ravens can actually get the job done here, but it's going to be tough for them, and you know, the rest of this group is kind of chaotic as well. But it's really Group B, which is where the fireworks are probably going to fly, and these are the 2 games for tonight. So Empire versus Mutineers. Firstly, Mutineers have been looking better as of late. I mean, they 3-0'd OpTic just last week, and Empire have been looking pretty shaky, certainly, so, you know, maybe this series can go the distance. I think most people are going to say, okay, Empire, pretty important series, they're probably going to find their way to get over the line. But it's really this next series, OpTic versus Surge. There's so much to discuss here and so much that could potentially be happening, right? Because last week, OpTic failed to even win a map. They got 3-0'd by Minnesota Rokkr, they got 3-0'd by the Florida Mutineers, and now they play a Surge team, clearly much improved, that's actually been looking a lot better as of late, and had a great result last week and completely 3-0'd the Paris Legion, I believe, straight off the map without even a second chance. So, in theory, OpTic are actually playing a stronger team this week than they were in their 2 matches last week, which is, well, it's kind of scary, right? But this is the one that you need to bounce back in. OpTic, their backs are certainly against the wall right now. They're 1-2. If they beat Surge, if they beat the Dallas Empire, technically the 2 top teams in the group, then, you know, they'll be 3-2 and they should get out into the winners bracket for the major. But it's not going to be easy to do so. This match against Surge, I really think is going to tell the tide, right? Because if they lose this one, their chances of the winners bracket are basically over, which means that, okay, the match against the Dallas Empire might not actually mean that much. There might not be too much fire going into that regardless. And then they could be in the losers bracket for the major. If they fall out early, then you've got to think, okay, you know, our team changes on the card. So I think there's a lot to ride on this series. I feel like OpTic will find their way through it, but I felt that last week against the Mutineers, and that didn't exactly work out to plan. But I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below on all this stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm to know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and upgrade the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.
Hey, alright, 2 playing.
Top lane now.
One's in orange.
One's our truck, like forklift.
Hey,
2 scaff, they're already tube.
One shot on tube, one shot on tube.
2 box.
they're green.
Nice, that was him,
Light's dead. More light, dead. Dead.